Captain Kyle Smith, and this week I sat down for a morning meeting with retired San Diego Fire Department Captain Zeke Sanchez and his daughter Christina. Zeke shares with us the pitfalls to avoid when raising a family as a firefighter, and Christina shares her perspective as someone growing up with a parent on the job. I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, hey Zeke and Christina, welcome to the bullpen. Thanks for meeting me.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, this is the first for the Firehouse where we have a father and daughter duo. I'm very excited, not only because of my personal experience with you, Zeke, on the fire department, but Christina, yours and my past history as soccer players at Santa Clara. This is very, very unusual, but very cool. So thank you both for being here.
Very cool. I agree.
Thank you.
I was sharing a story with your dad earlier, Christina, about coming off the line on the witch fire. Back, it would have been about 2007 or something. Mm-hmm. And came off the line, and we're all worn out and tired from this huge campaign fire. And we come into the tents over at the base camp, and there you were. And it was the first time I had seen you in a really long time. And I remember thinking, God, what are you doing here? Like, your dad's supposed to be here. What are you doing? But you were a chiropractor volunteering your time to help us people that were coming off the lines, just to kind of give us adjustments and put us back in service. And I just want to say thank you for that. That was awesome.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was a once in a lifetime experience I got to share with my father. I still don't know if I can tell it without crying, because it was a very emotional moment, but also not just my father. I was raised on this department. And so, I mean, all the different, firefighters over the years who, can't tell you how many times I heard, I knew you since you were knee high. Like, I can't tell you how many times I heard it that day. Yeah. Right. So it was a full circle moment for me. But my father stepped off that bus after I waited for hours and hours and hours. That was an incredibly emotional and very special experience. And that he stepped off that bus to me, and I got to see him. So it was a very unique and very privileged experience that I got to have with him.
Oh, that's so cool. And I think you said it perfectly, Christina, that it had come first full circle, that this really is a family. The fire service is a family. And when you can literally share experiences with your family, I'm imagining that had to be special for both of you. Am I right there, Zeke?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like she said, I wasn't expecting her or anticipating that she was going to be there, but when she was, literally, I was looking at an angel. And yeah, makes me proud. If you can see the emotions coming up.
Starting out the gate stronger, Kyle.
That was not my intent. That was not my intent, guys.
I know.
All it's meant to say is I appreciate having you guys here. I appreciate Zeke, your service to the city of San Diego, and Christina, your service to us, working on the line with us back there back in 2008. So fast forwarding to today. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're all doing all these meetings via Zoom. How has life changed for you, Zeke, since retiring, and then all the way up until the pandemic? What's been going on in your life?
Well, since this pandemic broke out, obviously it's brought a lot of what I was used to doing, having that freedom to do what I normally do. For example, I probably would have visited Christina 2 or 3 times in that time frame and played golf over Pinehurst golf courses. But, travel has shut down quite a bit. The isolation, trying to stay away, because having been exposed to all that we've been exposed, and as you well know, Kyle, and the younger firefighters will learn as they go along, that you get exposed to a lot of things so that your body, it wears, and especially the lungs. Protect those lungs as much as you can, because now, especially something like this that attacks your lungs, you got to be extra cautious. So that's really what it's done. Is it's made me much more cautious, a little more hesitant to go out and gather with people, but I've been able to find ways, i.e. through charitable works like what I've been doing, or I expressed to you before we started recording, and also golf course. I mean, it's funny because literally golf has become my new code 9. I meet up with a couple of guys.
can you just explain what, number one, what charitable stuff you're doing, and then also what Code 9 is for people that aren't from this fire department, not familiar with Code 9?
Oh, okay. Charitable work that I've done is I've involved myself. I started a scholarship with the Bomberos to help underprivileged kids or kids that want to become involved in helping their community, educating themselves. I recently awarded my first scholarship to a young lady from Imperial Valley who wants to become a teacher. And those are the kinds of people that I'd like to encourage and help them what little bit I can to help them achieve their dreams and their goals, because I was fortunate enough that I was able to do that and achieve my goals. So I'm just kind of sharing it. And other things, I'm involved with the Freemasons, and we've done a few philanthropic things there with Dewey Elementary over in the Loma Portal area near Station 20, and also with a couple of other little philanthropic programs. One is called Princess Project, which buys prom dresses for underprivileged girls so they can attend prom, and also something called Music in the Classroom, which provides musical instruments for kids with learning disabilities, so that studies have shown that kids with learning disabilities seem to focus a little bit better with their attention spans and what have you when they are playing music, so to speak. So it's kind of a learning tool, and it's proven effective, and it's going on right now in the San Diego Unified School District. So those are things that I've been involved with, along with the golf course. And again, you wanted me to explain Code 9. That was just a code that we would use to go out and exercise, to get out. You know, I don't know how what it is, how it goes on now at the stations. But back when I was on the department, we would take, as a crew, go out before shopping, and we would go to a local park or an area, a school, and exercise, run, jog, and of course we also lifted weights in the station, so on and so forth. That's what Code 9 is, exercise.
Yeah.
And also I'd like to share, because I am very, very proud of her, a charitable work that my daughter has done in Moore County, North Carolina.
Okay, I guess I'll jump into that then.
Please do, yeah.
So, so when my father joined the Freemasons at the time, I actually stood by him for part of his year as Daddy, what's the right term there?
Master.
No, but when I was with you doing your meetings, as you're standing in as your first lady, essentially.
Yes, essentially.
So
yeah.
I had gone to his meetings with him, and I don't know, I was very proud of what he was doing. And the fact that he found something that he was going to dedicate himself to for years at a time. And we left California back in 2017. We now live in North Carolina. And, uprooting my life and trying to find a tribe of women that I resonated with. And I joined the Junior League of Moore County. And very quickly, I super immersed myself inside the organization, and I'm the sitting president this year. And it's only been almost 3 years. So it's been a very quick and furious pace for me to move through our leadership. But I found a lot of time I've got a chance to spend hours talking to my dad about like his experience as moving up the line, as they call it, in the Masons, and then just me moving through our management to our board positions, things that we wanted to, different changes we'd like to see inside the organization, not only in terms of internal culture, but how we were touching our communities and in what way that we were contributing to our communities. Was it meaningful? How are we investing our time there? So it's been really cool at this phase in my life to be able to share that with my dad, and to have this sort of volunteerism thread that, I'll be honest, I didn't even really knew we had it until, he started going into the Masons. And so it's conversations that continue to this day. Yes, our particular organization, our focus is at-risk youth and fundraising money to be able to develop programs or support programs. I live in rural North Carolina. And while Pinehurst itself has a level of affluency, perhaps a lot. It's a resort town. It's a golf town. It's, the birth, I guess, of golf in the United States. It's also very rural, and it's large, and there's a lot of children living below the poverty line. So that's the work that I'm volunteer work I'm doing here.
Oh, it's amazing. What I'm hearing from both of you is a commitment to serving that resonates with us as first responders. And I'm really, really proud to hear that you guys are giving back and continuing, Christina, continuing the legacy that your dad set up. That's something that all parents, I'm sure, would be very proud of and could definitely strive for. So that kudos to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, guys, with that in mind, you ready to get this thing going?
Let's go.
All right. So here comes your first alarm. You will recall a first alarm assignment on the San Diego Fire Department is 4 engines and a truck. But here at the Firehouse, I'll ask you 4 questions. You give us 1 piece of advice. That sound good?
Fair enough.
All right, let's go.
I'll do my best.
All right, so you're first in on your first alarm. So I need to size up, but that's who you are, where you worked, and how long you did it for.
Okay. My name is Zeke Sanchez. I retired, and my official retirement date is March 28th, 2012. I served on the San Diego Fire Department for 32 years. I'm part of the 21st Fire Academy, the finest academy this department has ever known.
No, I heard it's the second finest. Cap, I heard it's the second finest. We heard the second.
But the bulk of my career was spent at Fire Station 11. I spent 3 years back then they were called hoseman. And then I spent 12 years as a captain. I also spent time in the dispatch center as a dispatch captain, spent time at Station 20, Stations 23, and I retired out of Station 40.
Wow, it's a great long career. As I recall, it's the Station 11 up in Golden Hill, used to be called the Rangers. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a B division thing. We're not going to go there.
Let's not go there then.
Yeah, let's not go there.
No, let's not go there. Well, again, thank you for your service to our department. I can tell you that I enjoyed our time working together, although it was short. I was new on the job back then, but I did enjoy the few shifts that we worked together. How do you think, throughout your career, I'm sure you saw the economy go up and down over time. You lived through the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. What sort of things today, how the pandemic is today and how it's affecting the economy? Are there any similarities or things that we should be looking out for so that, we can better plan?
Oh, wow. The similarities, there aren't many, simply because this is totally unique. There have been other pandemics throughout my career. There was the MERS and the SARS and those, but we seem to have been better prepared for those, to where we didn't have it as out of control as it is this particular pandemic. Now, it's unique. I'm sure that it is. I'm not saying that it isn't, but somehow there was a little better organization to address our safety and the public safety, so that yes, people did catch these things, but it seemed to have not gotten out of hand like this particular one has. Last I saw, we're like at 160,000 deaths. That's a lot. Yeah. And probably the biggest pandemic that I dealt with was the AIDS pandemic. And Golden Hill, at that time, I was Station 11, and Golden Hill, and I didn't know it at the time, but there were a lot of homes there, care facilities that were taking in AIDS patients. So we ran on quite a few, and yet as far as I know, none of us ever contracted AIDS, or even HIV. So we took good care of ourselves, and we addressed those things every time consistently. So this is a unique experience. Yeah. The one thing that I can say about any pandemic of any kind is, on a personal level, is that you want to create some kind of a buffer, because you might take a hit financially, and that's what you want to do, is create some kind of a safety fund, if you will, so that if something unforeseen arises, you're able to respond to it, so that it doesn't, you don't lose everything. I think that would be the appropriate term.
Yeah, we talk about having a little emergency fund, which is the exact same thing you're talking about, because things will come up. And if you're caught out and you have to put, some emergency comes up and you have to put it on a credit card or something, you're gonna be paying all this huge interest, and
exactly,
it ruins a lot of people. So I really do like that, hearing you say that. When you came on, what was sort of your understanding about personal finance? What was your background in any of this? I know for me, it was nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about it, even though I had a college degree. I thought myself as an educated person. I had no financial literacy. What was yours as you came on?
I think I fall in with the majority of people that come on the job that have absolutely no knowledge or understanding of personal finances. So I was in that same situation. I was young. I was worried and concerned about providing for my family. So the first and foremost thing that I was looking for is a means of income, so that I was able to address my family's needs, and finances were kind of in the background. The biggest goal that I had in mind, once I did land this job, was to provide a home, a house, a physical place where my kids could come home and say, this is our home, this is our house. And I did that, and then after that, it was up to myself and their mom to keep that home there available to them, so that they felt secure.
Yeah. No, I love that. You when we were talking offline before, you mentioned a piece of advice your father gave you about saving. Can you just share that for us?
Yeah, very simply. One piece of advice which I really took to heart, and I tried my best to live to it. And what it was is, he says, if you earn $1 and you spend 90 cents and save 10 cents of that dollar, you will do well. But if you earn $1 and spend $1.10, you're going to be in trouble pretty quick. And it's a truism. It really is. A lot of people don't recognize that. They think it's an easy payment plan, and in today's society, and I've noticed that throughout the generations that have been coming up after me, there's a lot of advertising for getting into debt. And they even say, easy payment plan, all of this, and now it's debt consolidation.
Right.
What you're not hearing is debt payoff.
Yeah.
And that, believe me, is the basis of all financial plans, is to leave the job without debt. You can do that. I promise you that you will live a comfortable life. Now, let me make sure that I clarify that for you. If you came on the fire service to get rich, you picked the wrong career.
Wrong job.
Okay? It's the wrong job.
Yeah.
Everybody and anybody who made their wealth while they were in the fire service made it in something other than the fire service. Okay? This is a blue-collar job. So it has certain requirements that you have to fulfill in order to live comfortably. And if you can do that when you retire, like I said, you'll be comfortable. You're not going to be rich. You'll be able to afford those things that you want to make your life convenient and comfortable. But that house in Rancho Santa Fe, no.
That's probably not in the cards. But I think that's the goal for all of us, is to get to the point where in 20 or 30 years from now, we can we can sit and do the things that we want to do. We can go visit our children who have moved away. We can go play golf if we want to. We can give charitably if that's what is inside our hearts. That's the goal for everybody. And so I absolutely love what you said there. Christina, looking back, do you remember having talks around the dinner table with your dad about finances, or was that a subject that was kind of off the table?
It wasn't off the table as in terms of taboo per se. And he had mentioned offline that he had children very young, and so I always kind of give my parents that grace of that they were kind of kids raising kids. And I think that, to some degree, my dad gave all that he could for what he, in those moments, but he didn't have a lot of financial literacy of his own. And so there wasn't much necessarily to educate to his children. So there wasn't a lot of conversations around the dinner table. In fact, I don't think my father and I we just recently started having true conversations around financial planning, financial literacy. I mean, no one taught me about credit cards and interest. Sent me off to Santa Clara, and right there in front of Benton, that little table, they're just like giving out credit cards, like they're giving out Tic Tacs, So I learned a lot about finances the incredibly hard way, of just life lessons, which a lot of people do that, yes. But I think financial literacy and financial education, it's not something you really get in school. It is something you get at home. So depending upon, I think, where that generation is at and what they're able to provide to their children is kind of what you get. So I have a 6-year-old, and I have already, kind of like mapped out in my mind how early I want to start working with him around money and how it goes in the penny in his, piggy bank. And I'll be honest, Daddy, I never heard the story about the $1.90, $1.10, but I'm going to steal that from whichever grandfather you got it from.
There you go. That's Grandpa Sanchez, by the way.
Grandpa Sanchez, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I will be, using something in that simplicity for my son. So no, there wasn't a lot of conversation about it. And I still have a lot to learn. And this pandemic for us from a financial point of view has hit my family incredibly hard. So, and it kind of goes back to that, well, how prepared was I? I mean, I could be as prepared as I could have been, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. No, and that's the scary part about this thing is it's affected absolutely everybody in ways that it was really hard to anticipate. But the piece about having the conversations around financial literacy, financial education, because we didn't get it in school, we didn't get it at home. I'm trying with the FIREhouse to just get that conversation going so that the mistakes that have already been made aren't being perpetuated for the next generation of people coming through. But the big picture is we can't beat ourselves up over it, right? We've all made these mistakes we wish we didn't make and wish we would have done this before. But there's a great quote by C.S. Lewis that says, well, you can't change the past. You can start right here, right now, and change the future. And that's like the mentality I have when I'm wanting to beat myself up because I made a dumb financial decision or something. But I appreciate you sharing that story. I can tell that it's raw and it hurts, but we can all improve from it. So that's cool. Zeke, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently as it relates to your finances, or did you have a plan and follow it all the way through?
Well, yeah, I had a plan. I had this mental image of what I wanted. We call it retirement, but when you're living through it and life throws all these curveballs at you and what have you, you have to respond to those immediately. So sometimes that plan takes a back seat, really, because you do have things like kids in school, house payments, no overtime. So, sometimes the paychecks are a little short, that sort of thing. There are financial stressors that prevented me from keeping that. But I didn't lose my focus, because the one thing that I didn't realize back then, that all of the younger firefighters, the ones that are now coming on the job, and even those that have been on the job now, as funny as this may sound to you, you may not recognize this, but you already have a plan in motion. Now what you're doing is you're trying to bring it into fruition. And as long as you don't spend that money now and just hold on to it and let it grow, it will eventually grow enough that you will be able to live comfortably. And that's what a lot of people, like you said, they get lost in that whole credit thing. They can't recognize that every dollar that you spend now that you don't pay back now is a dollar that you're taking away from your future earnings.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and you know, and if you do that, again, it goes to earning that dollar and spending $1.10.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. I'm making a note of that. I interviewed Aaron Bothwell recently, and he was talking about Dave Ramsey, who's this financial guru who talks all about eliminating bad debt, so like credit card debt and that sort of stuff, because it just eats you up, and you pay all these high interest rates and all this stuff. And I'll link to it in the show notes. But I think what you're saying is while it's simple, sometimes it's not easy, right? Because of the things that come up. You have a plan, but then sometimes things come up. That's why it's really important to have that emergency fund. Mm-hmm. But the simplicity of if you make $1 and you save 10 cents of it, if you think of it in those terms, is just perfect. Just save 10 cents out of every dollar, saving 10%. You'll be way ahead of the game when you're looking back, sitting where you are. So I just think that's fantastic. Is there one more piece of advice that you could give either the younger people coming on the job or more senior folks? One piece of advice as it relates to personal finance or just motivation or personal development or something like that?
I'd give you two. Okay. The first one that I would give you is do not, and let me emphasize, not become reliant on will work. Overtime. Yeah, exactly. Do not become reliant on overtime. And that's what happens a lot, especially with the younger guys, because let me see, how can I explain this?
I mean, I can jump in on a piece of that for you, Dad.
Please go right ahead, Mia.
I watched my father for all the years that I can think of until I left for college, chasing down overtime to catch up with the credit cards, to make the ends meet. It was always chasing overtime. And those 72-hour stretches when I needed him to be home, he wasn't.
That hits perfectly at home. That is going to resonate so clearly with our folks, Christina, because it kills us when we do have to be gone, when we have to miss birthdays and Christmas and all the things where we're desperate to be home. And we know on the back end, if we have all these credit cards or we have bills that we have to pay and overtime is plentiful, it's really tempting to take it, to make those ends meet, like you said. And it's really humbling to have you here to share your side of that story, because in the end, we're working this hard to provide a life for the people that we love. What we're experiencing now is mandatory overtime. And so we have a shortage in each rank where we don't have enough people to fill the seats. And so they force us to work overtime to keep constant staffing. And so those 72-hour shifts can turn into 96 hours away from home.
Wow.
But I think it's important to remember what you guys are talking about is don't just go out and spend that overtime money on miscellaneous junk that you don't need, because there is a price to pay on the back end, and it's being away from home. And seeing this.
If I may add to that, Kyle, it is actually a golden opportunity to get ahead financially, because it is mandatory. And like you said, you don't need to spend it on superfluous stuff. Okay. So this is the time that you've got this extra money coming in, pay down those debts or pay them off completely, and then focus on paying off your house. If you own a house in Southern California, when you retire, cash money, you can go just about anywhere, buy a house, and still have a couple extra $100 $100,000 to add to your retirement fund.
That's incredible.
So this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, because we mentioned earlier about credit cards and how nobody ever tells you to pay them off. You just consolidate your debt and keep making payments. Pay that stuff off. Have a plan to pay all of that stuff off, and then go on and pay off your house. And believe me when I say this, once you've paid off that mortgage and you start socking that money away, think in terms of drop. I mean, after a while, that money just starts cascading and that compounding. And before too long, you're going to have what a friend of mine on the job, a retired engineer, said. He called it a happy problem. And then the other thing that you also want to do is you want to, once you find yourself in the position where you can start growing that nest egg, find a professional. Be it CPA, financial planner, whatever you choose to call them. Find that professional who will help guide you through that. I mean, all you have to do is think of your profession. No one calls an electrician put out a fire. They call the professional.
Yeah.
Well, because most of us come in and don't have that kind of background, that kind of knowledge or expertise, bring in somebody onto your team, because that's what you're developing. You're developing a team to help guide you through that. That's a resource that you're developing.
That's perfect. I just interviewed a CFP here in town who's a former Navy EOD officer and named Jeff Rotherham, who was saying the exact same thing. He said the exact same thing. He said, you would never call me to come put out a fire. You never would. Why are you guys all trying to do this on your own?
Right.
Hire the pros to do it. That's right on the money.
And the first question, let me address this while I can, if I may, Kyle. The first question that most people will ask, well, what's it going to cost?
Right.
Everybody's worried about the cost.
Right.
You know what? Let me be very honest here. I don't look to see what it costs, because quite frankly, if my statement is showing growth, then you know what? Those people are entitled to make a living.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So don't worry about the cost. Worry about the results.
Yeah.
That's what you really want to focus on.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love that. Thank you for that. Well, I think with that, Captain Sanchez, you got knocked down on your first alarm. I know it's been a while, but you still got it.
Thank you.
With that, if people are looking to learn more about you, where could they find you?
Well, they can definitely email me. They can find me at Zeke and Sherry at sbcglobal.net. Let me spell that out. It's ZEKEN as in November, SHEREE at sbcglobal.net.
Perfect. Christina, what about you? If they're looking to learn more about you or possibly the Junior League of Moore County, where could they find you?
Well, Junior League of Moore County, you can find that on Facebook just by Googling that or searching that in. And you can find me as well on Facebook by my full name, Christina Sanchez Stokes, or facebook.com/Dr. Christina, DRCHRISTINA.
Awesome. Well, I will link to all that stuff in the show notes. And guys, I just can't thank you enough for your time today. This was a really awesome conversation. It was great catching up with you both. And I think people listening will get a lot of value out of it. So thank you both.
Oh,
thank you very much, Kyle.
All right. Thanks again to Zeke and Christina for meeting me here in the bullpen today. I feel truly blessed to have spent time hearing their story. Their openness about sharing the ups and downs of being in a fire family is just really special. Their commitment to serving others is also just outstanding, something we can aspire to ourselves. If you'd like to learn more about Zeke, you can find him on his email, zekeandsheree@sbcglobal.net. If you'd like to learn more about Christina, you can find her on Facebook at Christina Sanchez Stokes. If you'd like to learn more about us, we're on Facebook at The Firehouse. That's f.i.r.e.house. On Instagram, the _fire_house. On LinkedIn, The Firehouse Investors, or any place you listen to podcasts. If you learned something today and you'd like to hear more, please like, share, and subscribe. But no matter what you do, take this information, go out there, and get some. Station F.